Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Spilling Tea. I am your host, Tiffany Daniels, and yes, we're getting back to the Medicaid series, but before we do, just a brief little shilling of my own little city here. The disclaimers and the trigger warnings. First off, to thank the wonderful, glorious human being who decided to help out those of us who are transportation challenged by filming in two different areas the No Kings protests, as well as Pride in my city. You are awesome. That is fantastic. I was very happy that there was at least some way my terribly transportation challenged self would be able to participate. And not just that, guys. So, we already had the Pride festivities already planned for this day. And then, of course, the date was decided in regards to the No King protests. So my city, Springfield, said, no problem. You know what would be good? You wanna like totally piss off the Missouri GOP hellscape? We're gonna do Pride, and we're actually going to coordinate with the No Kings protests going on in downtown and up at the library center. We're gonna do this all together. That was awesome. You have no idea. That is awesome. And what they've been doing is for the protesters, they've got different tents up. They usually do for Pride, but now there's free water bottles because it's so hot outside. I got to see some of the most fabulous inhabitants of my first city that I would like to find someday so they can explain to me their superior eyeliner game. Help a sister out. I need an intervention. But that was really cool. I was glad to see that. I mean, they can get pretty creative out here, but I wasn't quite anticipating that level of coordination and that level of just looking to get on our current GOP in this area's last nerve, but I approve. I approve this message. Do it again. In my defense, folks, our GOP did try to close down all funding to our public libraries, as well as being discriminatory against people with disabilities like myself, LGBTQ+, essentially everyone who doesn't agree with them. So, I think it was fabulous. And the person who streamed that, you are a hero. May karma find you and reward you for how awesome you were towards those of us who are transportation challenged so that we could participate too. That was just really cool. Alright, to the disclaimers. In regards to our Medicaid series, folks, anything that we go over throughout the course of this series, you're going to find links right there in the description box. So if you'd like to use those to do a little bit more deep diving into the subject, I definitely encourage you to do so. Also note, yes, I am, once again, using my own Stomping Grounds website in regards to talking about Medicaid eligibility. I do that because of A, they're a really good source, and B, they're a lot more detailed than the things that I was able to pull up that are more on a national scale. Most states have similar eligibility criteria in regards to receiving Medicaid for people who are developmentally disabled in particular. It's just easier for me this way, so that's why when we go over eligibility for Medicaid, we're going to be using my own Stomping Grounds website to do so. They've always had a good website that's just right down into the details, and let's face it, I'm autistic. That's just my ballgame, right? Okay. Trigger warnings. We do get the channel marked not for kids for a reason. We do use profanity, and some of the topics that we cover on this channel are pretty dark, such as the Judge Rotenberg Educational Center. So if your child is 16 and younger and they are watching this, parental supervision is very much advised. Also, trigger warning. If you're gung-ho for one political party or the other political party, I am not. More than likely, in the course of one of these mini-series that I'm currently juggling right now on the channel, I am probably going to say something that is likely to offend you. If that's not something you deal with too well, I don't blame you. I used to not handle it all that well either, and it won't hurt my feelings if you go again and pause the video, but I still encourage you to pull up the links anyway, because this is important information as we continue on and start heading towards that slow drive into the midterm 2026 political season, where all cylinders are going to be revving up on everything. Alright? Okay, eligibility determination. The Missouri Division of Developmental Disabilities, talk about a flash from my past, provides services for individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. So, this specifically has to do with receiving services through the Southwest Region Missouri Department of Mental Health Division of DD, like they're saying here. But we're still going to be going over it because we're also talking about eligibility in regards to Mo Health Net. So we're going to go over this, and I'm going to duplicate it and take you to another page as well, okay? Such as autism, cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, epilepsy, head injury, intellectual disability, learning disabilities, other related conditions. An intellectual disability must present before age 18. A developmental disability must present before age 22. Intellectual and developmental disabilities must also have serious impairment in 2 or more life areas. Now pay attention to these, because these in particular are pertinent to those who are trying to get into Medicaid for individuals like myself who are developmentally disabled and needed to help cover the cost for things such as neurologist, psychiatrist, and psychologist visits. So, one of those areas, if there's an impairment to self-care, ability to meet activities of daily living, which includes bathing, dressing, toileting, feeding, etc. Communication, ability to express oneself and understand others. Learning, ability to use and attain new skills. Mobility, fine and gross motor skills necessary to navigate the environment. Self-direction, ability to pay attention, follow directions, make good decisions, and set goals. Independent living, self-sufficiency, ability to work, manage money, and obtain necessary resources. The individual must also have a lifelong extended need for coordinated and specialized supports and services, such as my person-centered planning model. Now, my services by means of person-centered planning are no longer solely tied to the Department of Mental Health. As of right now, I'm literally just going through my treatment program through Burl without an attachment to the regional center anymore, mainly because those supports that I used to need, I've been able to navigate to the point where I don't really need that anymore. So, I still interact with them, of course. I'm an advocate. I kind of have to, and they still send people in my general direction that are considered not necessarily qualified if there's a major need for me to help guide them into For example, Centers for Independent Living or Abilities First or over into Borough or Judified. But yeah, so there's division eligibility, DD waiver eligibility, and of course this is more for their services than it is for Medicaid. But that right here specifically, serious impairment in 2 or more major life areas, is very much a requirement for someone like me. I have to be able to prove that in order to get into a program like Medicaid. So we're going to go back a little bit and into my search I started previously before we started the video. And we are going to once again use our friend AI. What are the disability requirements for Medicaid? Have been eligible for an SSI cash payment for at least 1 month. Still be disabled. Still meet all other eligibility rules, including resources test. Need Medicaid in order to work. And there we go. Notice that's on the Social Security website. Remember when I told you all these departments interact and are interconnected with one another? Exhibit A. Okay, so we know what Medicaid is. Alright, there's a few things to cover that we'll do another time, but I want to specifically target eligibility for this particular video. Here we go. How does a recipient qualify? Just like we started reading earlier, and have gross earned income that is insufficient to replace SSI, Medicaid, and any publicly funded attendant care. Refer to Red Book for threshold amount section. That is the same table that we went over not that long ago for Social Security, and it's the exact same type of income requirements. I just still happen to have that window up. So, just to remind you guys what that looks like from the other day. If you are a single individual, this is showing it for HUD, but it also is for Social Security out here and Medicaid as well. So you have to make about around or under $31,150 for a single person, and that's just pretty much it, folks. The other persons in the family usually tend to have to come into Medicaid on their lonesome, at least out here. Let me go back to where we were here. There we go. I'll find where we were here in just a moment, folks. Okay, yep. We went over that Red Book. The Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, formerly HCFA, oversees state admission of Medicaid. So, what does that mean, folks? It means we got another website to click on. Y'all love me, right? So we need to get to Medicaid. We want to know granted. Let's renew coverage. Medicaid. Here we go. And enrollment strategies. There we go. So we are looking at specifically Medicaid. make sure to take a look in different areas. There we go. Yeah, go to eligibility policy. We're going to click on this here. All right, supplemental guidance. All right, folks, kind of screwing this up towards the end of the video. Please don't sue me. There's something specific I am trying to get to. For the life of me, I can't remember where it is, but I know that it exists. There we are. Now we got it making coherent sense. Okay. Meet income requirements, have a qualifying developmental disability, or require long-term support services. So if we take that back to my own stopping grounds, we're going to pull that website back up for you. Right here. And yeah, you kind of see where we're going there, right? Divisions. There we go. All right, this is what we went to earlier. Again, it looks like. All right, folks, hold up. Let me see here if there's another way to pull this up. Chip services, we went over that. There we go. All right, so we're back where we started. I'm still putting this out here, even though I just gapped horrifically for like almost 10 minutes, by the way. You gotta have one of these qualifying disabilities. You have to have a serious impairment in 2 or more major life areas, which is what we just went over at the beginning of this video. So in other words, if you're developmentally disabled trying to get Medicaid, in order to qualify, you have to have a qualifying developmental disability. You also have to have at least 2 or more serious impairment in major life areas, such as self-care, communication, learning, mobility, self-direction, independent living, self-sufficiency. So you also have to have a lifelong need for coordinated and specialized supports and services. So there it is right there, folks. If you don't have that, you're not getting Medicaid. And you also have to go through a grueling application process when applying. And they're going to ask you all kinds of questions. You have to come in with your diagnostic paperwork. You have to be able to provide them with proof of that actual impairment in 2 or more life areas. And it's not over even after you've gotten approved, because you have to go in every single year to essentially show them that you are still developmentally disabled. I wish I was making that up. So that you can continue to stay on Medicaid. Now, I'm not on it anymore because I don't need to be. I'm getting all of my services now through, like I said earlier, through Burl, because I don't need this quite the same types of supports that I used to, and the ones I do need I have access to with Burl. But when I was younger, if I did not qualify for Medicaid, I would not get services. If I did not qualify for services, I did not get Medicaid. Pretty simple, right? So, Speaker Mike Johnson, I know you're in deep water today. A good majority of you are. But if you would be so kind as to stop speaking on programs you know nothing about. In particular, you have no idea what the eligibility criteria is. You have no idea what the evaluations consist of after one applies for services such as Medicaid, such as Social Security, such as Supplemental Security Income, such as Medicare, such as Section 8 or SNAP. Then don't speak on it. Because just assuming that everybody is just essentially refusing to work, living in their mom's basement, playing video games all day, and therefore you want to cut off all of this money off of these programs, show an absolutely crystal clear disconnect in regards to the current GOP and how real, regular Americans actually live. In particular, those of us Americans who have had to or are currently utilizing these programs right now. They are extremely difficult to get approved for. They are difficult to be able to maintain and be able to hold on to and keep. And without services like Medicaid, if you would need something like the Regional Center, the Southwest for Division of Developmental Disabilities, like I did, if you don't have Medicaid, you don't get services. See how that is? And vice versa. So to sit there and continue to say that people are just coming in there easily and like ripping the country off blind is absolutely ridiculous. And is only really happening in Speaker Mike Johnson's imagination. I'm going to go ahead and close on that one for now. Don't forget, folks, to make sure that you are still subscribed. I know I'm going to still say it my spiel here in a moment because I'm a creature of habit, but I do know that sometimes it takes you guys off, and as we're doing these series, I want to make sure that A, you are still subscribed, and B, you can receive notifications for as I get these new videos up. Because we don't get that many views on this channel, and the few we do get do tend to get removed from time to time. So folks, you know the drill. Hit the like button, hit subscribe, hit the comments. I definitely do appreciate your time today. As always, we hope you have a good one. And if you guys happen to be home from your particular protests, my city happens to be not the only one who is doing some of the virtual No Kings protests. So if you've got a Roku TV, or if you want to hop on your computer and head over to YouTube, they've got quite a few live streams up for those of us who are transportation challenged. So go ahead and check them out, alright? Because guess what? Even if all it is a little piece of data input, we're still there. And you know what? It counts. All right. Have a great day, everyone.